Boom, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Nolan Huck Anthony YouTube channel. I thank all of you for listening wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. This is the post game instant or more instant than any of my other post game videos this year. Game reaction to the 20-15 defeat at the hands of the Indiana Hoosiers at home. It should have been 20-13, but at the end of the game, Fernanda, the quarterback for Indiana, Cordoza or whatever his name is, uh, ran away instead of just kneeling, which again, I'm a high level football official. All you have to do is just kneel and the clock's going to go out. But instead he runs away, and I get it. They were trying to burn the clock, but it's like really all you need to do is like run away for a second, maybe stand there, depending on how much the Iowa player is going after you. And it was actually a very dangerous play because had the Iowa player gotten there quick enough and taken the Indiana quarterback by surprise, um, that could have been a last second forced touchdown to give Iowa a chance to tie the game. How crazy would that have been? But so, anyways, should have been 20-13. They took a safety. And this is my thoughts on the game. By the way, guys, if you guys aren't subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button. At the very least, like, comment, share. And without further ado, let's get into this. So, where do I begin in this game? I came into this game, by the way, guys, I don't miss. I said my game prediction for this game was Indiana 28. I actually overestimated them slightly, but less so than the rest of the country. I mean, you guys should have seen the picks and the lack of respect that the rest of the country had for Iowa. They were just jock sniffing Indiana after their victory over Illinois, and I said many times, and Indiana fans did not like it in the comment section, but I said Indiana definitely, this win is probably at the very least an indicator that they're a good football team, maybe even a great football team, bordering on elite. But it is also possible that Illinois just is not that good. And I think after today, I think that's probably accurate. Again, is it also possible that Iowa is better than most people realized? Yeah, that's true. And if you listen to the midweek press conference from the Indiana coach, he said that this was going to be a more challenging game than the Illinois game. Um, and obviously that was true. But Illinois is just not at this point in the year. They are not as good as what people thought. Now, they could have been caught on a bad day. We'll see how the rest of the year shakes out. But I think as of now, it's it's more of an indication of that than Indiana is this top five team in the country, so on and so on. But either way, most of my prediction was not necessarily that. That was more just kind of general commentary on a previous Indiana game while trying to give them some credit as well, because it was definitely a very impressive showing. But the reason why I had that prediction was because Iowa's defense against Rutgers did not look good, but the Iowa offense looked better. I also know Iowa's talent level intimately. I as a Iowa Hawkeye diehard, I know the talent that they have and that they don't have. And I knew that they would be able, talent wise, to compete with Indiana. Are they as talented? Maybe in some areas. As a whole, probably not. They're probably a little bit less talented, especially taking the offense into consideration. But that's why I gave that pick, because I knew Iowa was better and more talented than the rest of the country was giving them credit for. The rest of the country does not realize, by and large, how much talent Iowa produces at a high end level on a year in year out basis. I mean, they're sending guys to the pros left, right, and center. You don't get that unless you have talent on the roster. Now, cumulative from top to bottom, outside of the top, 30 players, there might be some teams that have more talent in the Big Ten. Michigan, Ohio State, probably Indiana, but still. So that's why I gave that prediction. I was a few points off, but I was closer than a lot of people who get paid to do this. And so I also said that I, after Iowa defeated Rutgers, and even before this, I was saying over and over and over that yes, this is a nice positive step in the right direction, but I need to see Iowa do it against a big boy, a top 25, top 20 team before I get my hopes up. And so in the game preview, I said that for me, a positive step would be that Iowa is able to compete in this game and keep it close. Yes, it was a home game, but it wasn't like it was a night out game like when Iowa defeated Ohio State by double digits. But still, the Iowa obviously had home field advantage. And so that's what I said. And so I'm giving that statement and review this, look back historically to my commentary, historicity, to give context to kind of my thoughts right now, which is, again, Iowa was able to keep it close. Their defense played better than what I expected. Was Iowa's defense perfect? No, which I'll get to that momentarily. But by and large, they did enough to win this football game. They did more than enough to win this football game. Was the offense as bad as what we've seen Iowa display playing top 25 teams in the past? No, they actually were a little bit better. They were able to move the ball in the air. Gronowski had a decent completion percentage. Was Iowa able to run the ball as well as what they've been able to do in previous games? No, but Indiana has one of the best rush defenses in the entire country. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But in the end, and I'm trying not to get too worked up. That's what always happens. I progressively get more worked up as I start revisiting certain aspects of the game. In the end, even though the yards were slightly better than the showings that we've seen in the past against Michigan, Ohio State, and the likes, it still was not good enough. It is absolutely not good enough to not eclipse 300 yards of total offense. You are going to struggle to win any football game not being able to get over 300 yards. Now, Indiana barely got over 300, but they did. And that's the difference in the ball game right there. They had 337. Now, Iowa's defense versus Indiana's defense, schematically different. Iowa is okay with you, picking up a decent accumulation of offense if, in the grand scheme of things, you're not scoring very many points. If you're only coming away with field goals or, you get a lot of yards and then it's an interception and then, so you still in the game with 12 points. Iowa is okay with that. Indiana does not have that type of defense as much, but still, that's the difference. they are able to get over 300 yards. Iowa's offense is not. And so, again, while it's better, slightly better, it's still not enough ultimately. And so, bringing this back to my overview of previous statements, I want so bad to be able to go, you know what? I said before the game in my game preview that as long as Iowa was able to, keep the game close, that it would be okay. I want to be able to say that, but I can't because I also gave context saying that if Iowa's offense is able to show signs of life and keep it close, then I would be, okay with a loss or more okay with a loss. And again, I'm trying to be fair here. It was slightly better than what we've seen in years past. But in the end, it's still not good enough. And so it's like, the fan in me wants so badly to be like, yes, let's take that and let's, bear the positiveness and move forward and it's not so bad and this and that. But I can't. I can't because being marginally better, but it's still not being good enough in the end doesn't mean a whole lot because it's still not good enough. Because it's still not good enough. Now, bringing this down to the actual game level and what happened in the game. So, bringing this just down to the actual game. In my analysis of the game, Iowa had every opportunity to win this game, and Drew Stevens has not been as good as I thought he was going to be. Some of the chinks in the armor that we saw from last year have carried over to this year. He's not a bad kicker. I put on Facebook that he's been average to below average. The numbers just don't say that. But he's not elite like I thought he was. An elite kicker, and I said this last week, nails that game winning field goal. He buries it. You know it, and I know it. Even elite kickers, have misses every now and again, but when it matters most, they bury it. And Indiana's kicker buried his. Drew Stevens did not. And for a kicker that has been a starting kicker for 4 years, you're at home. Not that he hasn't made big kicks before, but for example, Nebraska, who had to come in and bury that one? Not Drew Stevens. I think mentally, there's a good chance he's just not there. I think he has the talent and the skill, but being a kicker, they call it being a specialist because it's one facet of the game, pretty small facet that can have a big, big, major impact. And it's like a designated hitter or I mean it's kind of hard coming up with exact comparisons, but still there are some other roles mentally that you have to have a similar like mindset of being cool as a cucumber and just under pressure you're able to perform the best. And I don't think that he's there, and therefore I don't think he's an elite kicker. Um, the final 5 minutes, again, bottom line, Phil Parker dials up a beautiful play. Xavier Wampa gets in there, forces a bad throw on his blitz, and Zach Lutmer comes up with the big interception. Iowa has excellent field position inside the 40. And to not come away with points, I know your backup quarterback's in there, to not come away with any points, that is the difference in the game right there. And again, is it completely the offense's fault? No, because again, Drew Stevens had the ability to bury the field goal, which he didn't. He completely shanked it. But a good offense, again, like what I'm saying for Drew Stevens, buries a touchdown. They make you pay and they put that game away. And it just didn't happen. Is it Kirk Ferentz? Was it a lack of execution? Is it uh Iowa's offensive coordinator, Lester? I mean, it's hard to say, I mean, was Iowa a little bit conservative in their play calling? Yes. But you have a third and manageable and you can't come up with a first down. I don't care if you have a backup quarterback in there. You find a way to make it happen. At least pick up, another first down to give your field goal kicker the best chance possible and to kill some clock. Iowa's offense did everything wrong in that situation. They barely killed clock. They barely moved the ball. They didn't even have the ball in a good position for the field goal kicker. It's all the way on the left hash. Everything they did wrong. Those are small things that add up to winning a football game. I would have rather Iowa at that point ran uh, 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 ran the ball to get it in the middle of the field to give Drew Stevens a decent opportunity in the middle of the pitch to knock it down. Now, again, Drew Stevens should have nailed that regardless, but a dead on is a little bit easier. And I know hindsight's 2020, but you barely kill clock. The ball's in the least opportunistic spot on the field. It's just sucks. It's not good. It's not good enough. And then um Indiana gets the ball, and this is what a top 25 football team does. They make the mistake. Iowa, who's not a top 25 team, does not bury a score. Indiana gets the ball, and they say, you know what? We are going to make you pay for not making us pay. They march down. It's a third and long, and it's a simple slant route. Missed tackle, touchdown. And again, it's an Indiana player, Indiana's coach saying, you know what? We think he's better than you. We're going to put him in a simple slant, and we're going to put our confidence in him to make that play, run your A over, and go score a touchdown. That's what that is. That's a one-on-one play with cushion because Iowa's, Phil Parker prevent instead of dialing it up and having, a decent amount of I don't know, creativity, aggression. Iowa's corner is like 5 yards off, and I get it. For the most part, it works. That's the thing with Iowa. Like, for the most part, most of these things work until it doesn't. And it's a major missed opportunity. But overall, the 5 yards back isn't the end of the world. More what I want to comment on, even though that was a mistake by Phil Parker, the bigger thing, because I know what he was thinking, is I'm going to give coverage or cushion so we don't get beat and burnt long on a one-on-one, because we're too much there. But to me, there's a difference between being 5, 6 yards off and, splitting the difference, and you're kind of right there. You can make a play quickly if they try to get a slant rather than 5, 6 yards off. You're really having to come downhill and make a play, but the offensive player already is gaining a head of steam. It's not good. Now, should the tackle have been made? Absolutely. But again, credit to Indiana for saying, you know what, we believe in our guy more than your guy, and we're going to get it to him, and he is going to make you pay. That is what the best teams do. Okay. And I'm not only speaking about this from a fan perspective, from a content creator perspective. I play Division 1 water polo. I'm a high level sports official. I know the top teams in the country, how they think and how they go about attacking situations like this. And it's not taking, I'm not saying I know better than Kirk Ferentz or Phil Parker. I don't. Okay. But it's it's just crazy. It's just crazy. You have to have courage. You have to have guts to make it happen. And Indiana doing that in that moment took guts. That's they read it well. They saw something they liked. They made the call, touchdown. And that's it. That was the game. And even the final minute, just again not good enough. I knew as soon as they scored, the game was over. For most teams, it wouldn't be good odds to score, but for Iowa, it's less than 5%. They just don't have it in them to have a quick score. Um, they just don't. It's just not good play calling. Again, um, in that situation, you have to be tactful in taking what they give you to live to fight another day, rather than like constantly trying to push it completely downfield over and over and over and over. It's like, no, you're playing into their hands. Sometimes, yeah, it's okay to just get 5, 6 yards, get out of bounds to keep it moving, and then take your shot when it's there. And that's the game. That was the game. Let's look at the stats. Team stats: Indiana 337 yards, Iowa 284. Pass yards 223 to 192. Again, Iowa doesn't have over 200 yards of passing. Rush yards: Indiana 104 compared to Iowa's 92. I was a little bit surprised by that. I did think Iowa would be able to get over 100. And by the way, guys, I'm going to talk about Gronowski and that situation. Suffice it to say, again, I'm not wrong, and I'll get to that. Yards per play, 5.4 to 4.1. I mean, it's first downs, 18 to 17. Third down efficiency, basically the same. Punts, 4 to 4. Iowa actually ran 7 more plays than Indiana. Iowa only had 25 yards worth of penalties compared to 30 for Indiana. Fumbles lost 0-0. Interceptions 2-1. And again, if you're going to win this game, you cannot beat yourself. You can't beat yourself, especially when you're, not doing a ton offensively and making it happen. You can't beat yourself. Now, the second interception was catchable. Maybe an Indiana player got their hand in there and helped, but quite frankly, I thought Hank Brown fitted into a nice tight window. That's the difference between the wide receivers that Indiana has and the wide receivers that Iowa has. Is Iowa's wide receiver room better? Yes. But better from what? Being terrible, last in the Big Ten? Still not good enough. Fernando Mendoza, 2 touchdowns, 233 yards. Let's look at Iowa. I don't really care about Indiana. Gronowski, 19 of 25, not bad. 144 yards, not great. Zero touchdowns, one INT. Hank Brown, 5 of 13, 48 yards, 0 and 1. Kamari Moulton, 18 for 75, 4.2. Nathan for McNeil, 4 for 9. I mean, you choose this game. I mean, I don't know what happened to Jazzian Patterson. I used to call him Jazian Patterson. I looked it up on Iowa. It's Jazian. Terrell Washington Jr. 1 for 1. Let me know in the comment section if you guys heard anything about Jazian Patterson. I did have not. Disregard. He was injured. I mean, what's up with that? He was injured. What's up with the injuries? I know a lot of people have blamed it on the strength and conditioning coach. I don't know that it's that. It might be partially that, and believe me, I'd be open completely to it being that. Um, I think mostly what it is nowadays because of how little contact they do throughout the year, a lot of players' bodies just are not conditioned for the contact that they're going to have to take. They're just not. Um, I was without him, Xavier Williams, even a big, massive back like Xavier Williams, they don't have. Sam Phillips did have 5 for 64, not bad. Caden Weeshin, 4 for 29. Jacob Gill, nowhere near what he was last year, 3 for 28. But he was hampered by injury. Dayton Howard, good to see him, 2 for 21. I mean, I knew that Reese Vanderzee was going to be out for a while with his stress fracture, whatever it is. All right. Um, and listen, Drew Stevens, I know he hit a 54 yarder, but still, it's like I think I'm being fair about him. Like he's still better than a lot. I'd still put him, you know, as one of the better kickers in the Big Ten. But if you look nationally, there's a difference between the top tier kickers that bury kicks like that and good kickers or average kickers. Reese Dakin, not his best game, 38 average, 3 for 114. Some of it was field position, but all right, Mark Gronowski, last thing here. I called it. I said that my concern about, and I said this game one, about having a quarterback that runs the way Mark Gronowski runs, which is quite physical, sooner or later, he's going to get injured. And I called it. I mean, it's like you're how do the coaches not see it? But they're willing to live with it because they have no choice. They need him to be able to run. Um, but I knew that eventually he was going to get injured. Quarterbacks, most players nowadays aren't conditioned to take that sort of damage, but quarterbacks really aren't. So we'll see. It doesn't sound super serious, but it was serious enough to where he couldn't finish the game. So, I don't know if Iowa's next game is October 11th. So it looks like Iowa does. It's a Thursday game. No, Saturday. Um, Hold on a second. So next Saturday is the 4th. Yeah, Iowa does have a bye week. So, hopefully he's able to get well. All right, guys. I don't want to spend any more time talking about this. My final thoughts are simple. For me, this is really tough to do um, because I've been doing this for so long now. And it's just like there's never anything more, there's never anything greater. And it's kind of like I'm, spending some time in quicksand, really talking about the same stuff. It's better, it's marginally better, but it's not good enough, you know. And Gronowski, yes, has he been better? Sure, but it has he been as good as Nate Stanley? Heck no. Has he been as good as CJ Beathard? Heck no. I mean, he's barely better than Spencer Petras. It's just terrible. If you really think about it, like honestly, think about the fact that Gronowski is barely better than Spencer Petras. And think about how much money Iowa spent on Gronowski, you know? And listen, it's what they have to do. I don't fault them, but I promise you, a lot of Iowa fans are just gonna be done. They're like, no, it's not worth it. Like, we can pay as much money for a decent quarterback as we want, but as long as Iowa has this coaching staff, it's just gonna be what it is, you know? This is a tough loss, guys, because it was so winnable. Iowa could have picked up a season-altering win, a win that could have put them in a pathway to 10 victories in the regular season. It was there for the taking, and they came up short. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment. You guys know the drill. I might do a day after or morning after video. We'll see. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy with on facts or feelings because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Hang in there, guys. I know I need to. It's try to. It's really rough. Anyways, guys, go Hawks. Bye bye.